My wife and I had a few drinks, went to a nightclub near our house, and had a great time dancing, drinking champagne, and having sex in the parking lot. I know that 40-year-olds shouldn't behave like that, but what the hell? My wife Elena looked stunning in her little red dress, which accentuated her slim figure. My wife has very long legs, and the neckline of the dress emphasized her modest cleavage. In high-heeled shoes and with long blonde hair falling down her back, she was very noticeable. My wife is tall for a woman, about 5 feet 11 inches, and I'm 6 feet 3 inches. I'm well built, not huge, but strong. We both attracted attention, one reason being that Elena is a very good dancer, meaning she can sway and keep the rhythm to any song, and she's also a very sexy dancer. Over the years, we've been told many times to go to our room when we dance on the dance floor. Tonight was no exception. While I had my back turned, several men wanted to dance with Elena, but she rejected them. One particularly unpleasant jerk kept pestering Elena until she finally lost her patience, grabbed him by the arm, spun him around, and pinned him against the bar. She put her knee on his back, pressed his face against the bar, and whispered in his ear, "I said no twice. If you ask me again, I'll break your arm and hurt my knee. I don't care if I get arrested. It's worth it. Now get away from me." With that, she let go of him, and he fell to the floor, groaning. 2 of his friends picked him up, apologized, and left. I turned and smiled at my wife, who looked at me in surprise. We finished our drinks, I took my wife by the hand, and we left the club. We cleaned ourselves up as best we could, got in the car, and drove home. I probably shouldn't have driven, but we made it home safely. As soon as we got inside, we took off our clothes and showered together, pleasuring each other. We woke up to a message from our friend Chloe. It turned out that she had invited us and a few other friends to a restaurant nightclub owned by a former American football player who wanted to meet Carrie and would be happy to sign a photo. The message said that the meeting was at 7:30 p.m. and that we should dress up. We turned to each other, and I spoke first. "What do you think? Do you want to meet a famous former American football player?" I asked with a slight smile. She frowned. "Of course I want to meet him. You know I watched his games, and it might be interesting to meet him." "Okay, if you're sure. But remember, he may not be what you expect," I said, kissing her on the lips. We got out of bed, took another shower, and then spent the day doing chores and catching up on our side jobs. Soon it was evening, and we got ready, both dressing up to make an impression. We took a taxi and went to a restaurant. Evening. My wife and I sat and watched our friends dance, drink, and eat. We were at a very fancy restaurant owned by a former American football star. My wife, Elena, knew more about him than I did, as we are both English and don't watch American football. But apparently this former player was a linebacker in his day, and apparently very successful, but that meant nothing to me. This former player's name was Logan Pierce, and watching him walk around the room, he looked quite intimidating. He was at least 6 feet 4 inches tall and probably once muscular, but now he was just big, I mean tall, broad-shouldered, and solidly built. Some would say he let himself go. But he lives for fame and money, and he also had a charming smile that seemed to captivate many women, and the fact that he was rich helped him. In fact, there are rumors that he had many women, mostly married, so they say. Many women, young and not so young, single and not single, enjoyed his company. And what about sex with them? Well, again, these may just be rumors. These women never told their stories, most likely because they were paid to keep quiet. Like everyone else, we heard that he destroyed at least 5 marriages, and that all of their husbands named him in their divorce papers. My wife and I were invited to this restaurant by Logan himself through Shelley and her husband Marcus, as well as other friends of ours. Apparently, Shelley, our friend of about 5 years, sent Logan a photo of my wife in a strapless top and shorts, taken during a recent vacation in Italy. Shelley pretended to be my wife, sent the photo, and asked Logan to sign it. Elena was surprised by Shelley's actions, but didn't see anything wrong with it, especially since his autograph is worth a fortune. So far, we haven't seen the autograph or the photo, but Shelley apparently says that Logan will personally give the photo to my wife tonight. Before continuing with the story of that night, a little about us. My wife and I are over 40, but most people think we're in our 30s because we look young. My wife is tall for a woman, 180 centimeters. She is slim with a toned body and small but very firm breasts. We both go to the gym, run, and work out together. My wife is blonde, slim, and toned, which of course attracts attention, especially since we both speak with an English accent. I am also tall, 190 centimeters, and also toned, but a little more muscular than my wife. Imagine my wife in a long black evening dress that hugs her body, wearing high heels that make her even taller, with a cultured English accent. Today, all of this attracts attention to her, but she is used to it. In 10 years of marriage, I have never doubted her fidelity. Perhaps one of the reasons I trust her is that all our friends call her the Ice Queen. We go out with friends to nightclubs and bars, and once or twice we've even been to strip clubs. But wherever we go, we remain a couple. Elena dances with me or with one of our trusted friends, declining all invitations from strangers. If we don't know them, she won't dance with them. We go to office parties. My wife works as an assistant director at an insurance company, and I work as a manager at an auto parts warehouse. We socialize with people, but to be honest, we prefer our own company and close friends. As a couple, we are both attractive and get hit on a lot. Even though our reputation as somewhat cold and aloof people doesn't seem to stop people from asking us out on dates, or to dance. We don't have children by mutual choice, although our parents and family think it's high time we had kids. Our sex life is varied, and we tried to keep things interesting. We often go away for short weekends to have sex in new places. We have been caught doing this several times in different places. We are not exhibitionists, but Elena is not shy about showing off her figure in a bikini on the beach. And in Europe and the UK, if the weather is good, she often sunbathes topless. But to be honest, all the other women do it too, so if she didn't sunbathe topless, it would be more noticeable. We also play role-playing games from time to time, nothing unusual, just normal things like being picked up by a stranger. But no, we've never let anyone else participate in our games, and at any point, if one of us feels uncomfortable, we stop. Role-playing games are strictly for us. None of us is interested in sex with anyone else. We are completely satisfied with each other, and if something isn't working, we change it and discuss any problems that may arise. Yes, we argue or discuss things, but we never stay angry or upset for long. As someone once said, never go to bed angry. Another important point that very few people know about is that my wife and I moonlight as bounty hunters. Sometimes we are asked to find and capture various criminals that the police don't have the time or resources to deal with. I should add that we both worked for the British Secret Service. So yes, we are trained in the use of firearms and hand-to-hand combat. Of course, no one knows about this except the British government, and of course the highest echelons of the police. Even there, only a few people know about it. We specialized in retaliatory strikes, mainly avenging those who had harmed the government in some way. That's how we met, and we've been working as a team ever since. We are very loyal to each other, and betrayal is unthinkable for us. That's the background to my wife and me. We're former British Special Forces operatives, we're headhunters, and we're very happy in our marriage. Chloe and her husband Marcus want us to come. The photo is a decoy, but they want our other friends to come too. Most importantly, we understand that Logan wants my wife to be here. Yes, my wife and I know it's a trap, but we're out of work, so we decided to see what happens tonight. Yes, we know why we're here. A few months ago, Elena mentioned to Marcus that she likes watching American football on TV. The program showed highlights of Logan's winning games and how he helped his team win. Elena also said she would like to talk to someone from the sport someday and maybe try it, just for fun, of course. Of course, Marcus and Chloe didn't forget about that conversation. One thing my wife and I know about Marcus and Chloe is that they are swingers. Not everyone knows this, and we suspect, but cannot prove, that Marcus has slept with many of the wives and girlfriends of people who work for him, or are his acquaintances. But as far as we know, It has always been consensual. Elena and I know that Marcus would gladly sleep with my wife if the opportunity arose, and Chloe would also like to spend a night with Elena, with me, or with both of us. Chloe is not opposed to either gender, which helps Marcus in his conquests. Chloe is a beautiful woman with a perfect figure. She is sweet, funny, flirtatious, and can be a good friend. She and Marcus have never openly suggested anything like this to us. But it's possible if we ever want to switch partners or try swinging, which Elena and I will never do. Marcus is handsome in his own way. People say he is tall, dark-haired, and handsome, and he has a smile that seems to charm women and disarm men. He definitely knows how to flatter women, and he also knows how to seduce them. He's done it with many wives and single women, and we don't know why Chloe puts up with him. Well, maybe because he's the CEO of a large manufacturing company. Chloe doesn't need anything. She lets him do whatever he wants, and she often benefits from it by flirting with the women he seduces. Don't get us wrong. We don't judge their lifestyle or what they do in their marriage as long as it doesn't affect us. We try not to pay attention to what they do, because if they knew that Elena and I were hired assassins, they wouldn't want to be friends with us either. Chloe works as a part-time teacher, and as far as we know, she has never had a sexual relationship with any of her students. With teachers, yes, but with students, no. The other friends at the table are people we met through Marcus and Chloe. Over the years, we've been to various parties at their house and ours, and overall, these couples are nice to us. Even if we don't always feel the same way about them, but we're friends with them, just a little wary. Peter and Jasmine Holt, a couple in their 30s, work for Marcus's company. Jasmine is an attractive woman of medium height and build, with long brown hair and a nice smile. She works as an accountant for Marcus. Peter is a short, slightly overweight man, quite pleasant, but definitely loving when told what to do. He works in the mailroom at Marcus's company. Marcus almost certainly slept with Jasmine at some point, probably with Peter's consent or maybe without it, but that's just rumor. Peter has never confirmed or denied it, but we think Marcus and Jasmine see each other quite often. Finally, our last couple, Tessa and Ben Harris, are a sweet young couple in their early 20s, married for 5 years, childhood friends, and enjoying life away from their parents. Unfortunately, they both work for Marcus. Tessa is a slim woman with very long legs, long blonde hair, and blue eyes. She is about the same height as my wife, and in fact, she and my wife are good friends and often go running together when I can't for some reason. Ben is a thin, almost bony, tall young man, very intelligent, but lacking in common sense and not very confident. As far as I know, Marcus hasn't slept with Tessa yet. But Ben told me that Marcus suggested that he and Shelley go with him to a resort hotel. Elena and I can only guess what kind of resort this is. So far, Ben is standing his ground and refusing, mainly because Elena convinced Tessa to stay away from Marcus and Shelley, at least on a personal level, and I'm trying to support Ben. But the problem is that he works for Marcus as a programmer, and he and Tessa depend on the money. I have a feeling that Marcus might pressure Ben or offer him some kind of incentive. That's the background to tonight. Marcus and Logan aren't taking any obvious steps yet, other than continuing to pour us drinks. Every time a glass is empty, it gets refilled. And yes, we're drinking champagne, not the best, but still pretty good. Tessa seems to be getting drunk very quickly, and Ben looks like he's about to pass out. Jasmine is clearly excited. She has dragged her husband onto the dance floor, and is dancing happily with him, glancing at Marcus. Elena and I are just slowly sipping our champagne, also keeping an eye on the glasses. I noticed that Shelley was watching us drink slowly, but she didn't mention it to her husband. Marcus finally stopped looking at Elena and focused on Tessa. She was starting to look drunk. My wife nudged me. I nodded, got up, and walked over to Tessa. "Tessa, would you like to dance?" I said, holding out my hand. Tessa looked at me, then at Ben, then slowly looked at my wife. "Elena, is this okay?" she asked, trying not to stumble over her words. My wife nodded again. Tessa took my hand and pressed herself against me as I led her onto the dance floor. I quickly turned around and saw Logan heading toward our table and my wife, but I knew she could handle herself. All my attention was focused on Tessa, who was barely standing and clinging to my neck to keep her balance. I saw David looking at Logan approaching my wife and noticed that Shelley was starting to look uncertain, perhaps having second thoughts. I led Tessa into the ladies' room and followed her inside. There, in front of the mirrors, several women were applying makeup. They were shocked to see me with this woman hanging on me. "Ladies, I'm sorry to bother you. I was just looking for a safe place where my girlfriend could sober up," I said, approaching a free sink. They just stared at me as I splashed water on Tessa's face, then went to the drinking fountain and gave Tessa a drink. Seeing that I was really trying to help Tessa, they both came over and helped me. Both were in their early 20s and were wearing evening dresses. Both had figures that they had obviously worked hard on. One of the women was blonde, the other brunette. The blonde spoke first. "I'm Brooke, this is Leah. Sorry we didn't come to your aid sooner, but we thought you were using it. What's your friend's name?" "Thanks, Brooke, this is Tessa, my girlfriend. She's had a bit too much to drink. If you could keep an eye on her while she sobers up a bit, I'd be very grateful. My name is Gareth. You'd better stay here for a while. If I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a commotion in the building soon." Leah looked at me and smiled. "Wow, cool accent, and you're very fit. Are you single?" "Sorry, Leah, I'm married, but thanks for the compliment." I smiled back, and taking one last look at Tessa, who was starting to look around and focus on her surroundings, returned to our table. Marcus immediately came up to me. "What did you do to Tessa?" He looked concerned. "She's asleep, recovering from the champagne you made her drink. She's with her friends." I stood in front of him, crossing my arms to block his way. He tried to get around me, but I stood in front of him again. "Gareth, go away. You don't need to get hurt. You're about to see Logan drag your wife into bed while I sleep with Tessa. You can have my wife. She's good in bed, at least most of the time." I looked over his shoulder and saw my wife holding Logan by the shoulders, his arm bent at a strange angle, one of her signature moves. And even a big man like Logan could be knocked off his feet if the leverage was used correctly. The dancing stopped. The restaurant guests grabbed their coats and bags and headed for the exit. The bouncers and security guards realized what was going on and opened the fire exit doors. They clearly didn't want to get involved, and soon only Chloe, standing with her mouth open, Marcus, and of course the unconscious Ben, remained. Jasmine stood in shock, watching my wife deal with this mountain of muscle, while her husband stood nearby, looking confused and seemingly unaware of what was happening. "Marcus, let's get something straight. First of all, my wife is not going to sleep with you or anyone else, and certainly not with this mountain of muscle. She seems to be handling just fine." I walked past Marcus to our table to check on Ben. He was fast asleep but seemed unharmed. I walked over to my wife and kissed her on the lips, and she kissed me back. She was still holding Logan's injured arm. "Well, Logan, how does it feel now that the tables have turned?" "Yes, my wife likes the way you played football, but damn, you've let yourself go. Anyway, in case you don't know, my wife isn't going to trade her body for your autograph. And no, she's not going home with you to ruin another marriage." Then I turned to Marcus. "Marcus, I don't care how many women you have. I don't care how many women your wife will have after you. I don't care about your lifestyle. I only care if your lifestyle conflicts with mine. You set this up to sleep with a young woman and my wife, but you're not getting either. At that moment, Elena stood up and let go of Logan. He groaned as he tried to move his arm, staggered back a few steps, and tried to sit on the table, but the table broke under his weight. At the same time, Marcus lunged at me, but I simply dodged his blow, and when he ran past me, I tripped him and he fell onto the chairs. Chloe ran over to him and helped him up, but she didn't look very happy. "Listen, Gareth, Elena, it seems like my husband and I have made a big mistake. We seriously underestimated both of you and your feelings. I admit that I went along with Marcus because he promised me that I could sleep with you while Logan and Marcus had sex with Tessa and Elena. We didn't think you would all understand and get so involved. At that moment, Leah and Brooke came out of the bathroom, helping Tessa, who looked wary and focused. She walked up to Marcus and hit him so hard in the face that he fell down. Then she walked up to her husband, smiled and said, "He doesn't hold his liquor very well, does he?" Then she turned to me, hugged me, and kissed me on the cheek. "Gareth, you're a real English gentleman and your wife is lucky to have you. Elena, he's worth it, don't let him get away." Elena came over and hugged her. "Don't worry, honey, he's not going anywhere, right, my love?" "Of course, my love, let's finish this evening. Logan, when you get up, don't try to follow us or take revenge on me or my wife. If you try, you'll regret it. That's not a threat, it's a promise." I looked him straight in the eye when I said that, and he blinked first and nodded. His 2 bodyguards helped him to his feet, and he was about to say something but stopped, and, with the help of his bodyguards, entered his office. I turned to Tessa. "It's just a suggestion, but if I were you, I'd look for another job. It's going to be difficult with Marcus now." Brooks said, "Gareth, it's okay, she can work with us just like her husband. We're in real estate and looking for new employees, and from what Tessa told us, they're just what we need." Tessa looked at me as if asking for permission. "Tessa, it's up to you, but get to know Brooke and Leah first, then make your decision." I looked at Jasmine and her husband. "Jasmine, what you do in your marriage is none of my business, but I advise you to stop sleeping with Marcus and focus on your marriage. Stephen, the choice is yours. But if I were you, I would show some backbone and stop letting your wife walk all over you. If you want a fickle slut for a wife, good luck to you. Otherwise, I know a good divorce lawyer who can help you get out of that marriage." Finally, I looked at Chloe. "As with the others, the choice is yours. But if you really want to be happy in life, get rid of Marcus. You deserve better than a cheating scumbag like him. And who knows, maybe you'll find someone who will truly care about you." Marcus looked furious and was about to lunge at me, but Chloe grabbed his arm and slapped him across the face. "He's right, Marcus, goodbye. I'll take the lawyer's number Gareth gave you. Our marriage has been over for a long time." "Thank you, Gareth. I don't deserve your friendship, but I hope we can remain friends." With that, she left the restaurant and called a taxi. I gave Stephen my business card, and Jasmine sat down on a chair and cried. I don't know why, maybe because her carefree life was over. Stephen stood up, straightened his clothes, glanced at his wife, and left. When he reached the door, he turned around and said, as Chloe said, "Our marriage is over too. I'm going home, you can come with me, we can live together, and maybe we'll get back together, or maybe not. But in any case, I'll also contact a lawyer using this card." He turned and left, and a few seconds later, a very depressed Jasmine quickly followed him. Marcus just stared in shock at the turn of events. He had lost his wife, 4 employees, and any chance of sleeping with Tessa or my wife. I also suspect he'll have problems with Logan. He sank into a chair, picked up a bottle of champagne, and started drinking. Elena called a taxi, and it was already waiting at the curb. I helped Ben to his feet and almost Elena'd him to the restaurant door. Elena and Tessa left first without looking back. The taxi was waiting for us. My wife and Tessa got into the car. I helped Ben, then turned and said to Marcus from the doorway, "Marcus, don't contact Tessa, Jasmine, Peter, or Ben personally, and give Chloe only what she wants. Give your former employees excellent references and make sure they get everything they're owed. And think about your life. If you try to contact any of your former employees and don't give Chloe what she wants, I'll find you and make your life hell. This is a friendly warning. You have no idea what my wife and I are capable of and who we know. Goodbye, Marcus. So Tessa and Ben got jobs working for Leah and Brooke, who ended up becoming good friends and even got married. No, they never hit on Tessa or my wife. They went out to bars with us, danced, and had a good time, but they only danced with each other, which of course attracted attention. Tessa and Elena will definitely remain friends for life. My wife is teaching Tessa some hand-to-hand combat moves, and Tessa loves it. I help Ben work on himself, both physically and spiritually, and Tessa definitely likes her more muscular and confident husband. Marcus didn't contest Chloe's request for a divorce, and was generous with her in the property settlement. He still dates a lot of women, But he's single and told me through mutual friends that he's only interested in single women. That was true until he slept with the wife of an important gangster. Apparently, his demise was slow and painful. No, he didn't die, but he lost all his appeal and ability to enjoy his dignity. Chloe disappeared for 3 months, went on a trip and no one knows where exactly, but when she came back, she was a different person. And we, as a group, liked the new Chloe. She started hanging out with us, but she didn't drink alcohol, and only danced with people she knew or knew were single. Yes, she still hung out with single women, but she mostly danced with single men, getting to know them first and then going home with them. And strangely, she would look at me for approval when men and women asked her to dance or just offered to dance with her. In addition, she wanted to work again, so she eventually got a job as an assistant to Leah and Brooke. But no, she had no personal relationship with either of them. Stephen divorced Jasmine, but a year later they started dating again. It seemed they were made for each other, but as far as we know, Jasmine remained faithful, and Stephen became much more confident than before. Rumor has it that he had many wild nights before agreeing to go on a date with Jasmine again. Jasmine asked if she could join us on our evening outings, and although everyone said maybe, she hasn't come yet. For Logan, my wife and I took action. Various quantities of drugs were found in the restaurant office, as well as numerous pieces of evidence that Logan and his employees had coerced, and in some cases, blackmailed wives and girlfriends into spending the night with him. In addition, during the same raid, evidence was found that he had not paid his taxes in full. Apparently, the situation escalated to physical violence, and Logan and some of his employees engaged in a fierce battle with the police, in which he was apparently defeated. His restaurant was closed and sold. His bank accounts were frozen, and all his property was either sold or donated to charity. He himself was imprisoned for a very long time. At least he would have been if a group of men had not found out where he was, and with a little help, beaten him half to death. There is speculation that these were husbands and boyfriends avenging their women, but they all had ironclad alibis. Logan never recovered from the beating. Last but not least, my wife and I are still very happy in our marriage, still sometimes go away without telling anyone to do our side things, and go on vacation to be alone together. Our sex life is still varied and exciting. And yes, we are both still attracted to other people. And yes, my wife is still not shy about showing her body in the right circumstances, but we both know how to handle any situation.